One of the greatest falsehoods that is propagated today is the falsehood surrounding the US Constitution. We are told that the Constitution restricts government power by creating a separation of powers. We are also told that its Bill of Rights, which was amended several years after it was drafted and ratified, guarantees certain inalienable rights. However, neither of those things are true. In this video, I'm going to be focusing on why our inalienable rights, which are granted to us by the laws of nature and by our Creator, are not secured by this Constitution. I'm going to explain how the government can get away with violating our inalienable rights without violating the Constitution, and in fact, while being in strict conformity with the Constitution. I'm going to begin by analyzing an anti-federalist paper titled Essays of Brutus number 12. In my last, I showed that the judicial power of the United States under the first clause of the second section of Article 8 would be authorized to explain the Constitution not only according to its letter, but according to its spirit and intention. And having this power, they would strongly incline to give it such a construction as to extend the power of the general government as much as possible to the diminution and finally to the destruction of that of the respective states. We have seen that they will be authorized to give the Constitution a construction according to its spirit and reason, and not to confine themselves to its letter. To discover the spirit of the Constitution, it is of the first importance to attend to the principal ends and designs it has in view. These are expressed in the preamble in the following words: "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution," etc. Okay, now let me unpack that. So what Brutus was getting at here, and Brutus is a pen name, what Brutus was getting at here was the power that's granted to the Supreme Court, this power of interpreting the Constitution not only according to its letter, but according to its spirit, actually gives the Supreme Court a power that could be used to violate the state constitutions. It could be used to diminish the power of the states and even completely destroy the states. And he does this by pointing out the fact that the spirit of the Constitution is perfectly expressed in the preamble, and by breaking down the preamble and showing that what the preamble says actually really does grant this Constitution these powers. And I'm sure he would have said the same thing about the Bill of Rights. However, when Brutus wrote this in 1788, the Bill of Rights did not exist. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to show how the preamble of the Constitution allows the government to violate our rights without violating the Constitution, and in fact, being in strict conformity with the Constitution. So let's look at the preamble. So we, the people of the United States. By the way, I explained why they started off with "we the people" in my first argument against the Constitution video. In order to form a more perfect union, this line right here is exactly why, if you look up the Supreme Court, they say we do not have a right to secession. This is also a big part of why the Civil War happened. But ignoring the Civil War, if you type into Google, "do you have a right to secession?" which you should, because the Declaration of Independence says we do. You know, it's pretty self-evident in the Declaration of Independence. It even refers to it as a self-evident truth that we have a right to secession. But the Supreme Court says we do not have a right to secession, we do not have a right to self-determination, because the Constitution was put together to create a more perfect union. So they will tell you, no, you do not have a right to secession. Establish justice. This right here is exactly what allows them to actually violate your rights, because they're saying that this is just, that this is justice. But I'm not going to get too far into that. Ensure domestic tranquility. This allows them to violate a number of rights as well. If they say, you know what, you're disturbing the peace, then you're disturbing the domestic tranquility. You cannot disturb the peace. If they decide to declare a state of emergency and lock everyone down because there's an uprising, they can say, nope, guess what? All of your rights are suspended because right now your rights are messing with the domestic tranquility. They can do that. Provide the common defense. This is what allows them to basically have a standing army. It allows them to have things like Guantanamo Bay. It allows them to have laws like the Patriot Act. It allows them to do the things overseas that they do, all in the name of the common defense. Promote the general welfare. Okay, this is what allows them to say, you know what? Those firearms, those automatic firearms, they're messing with the general welfare. This allows them to do that. It also allows them to enact certain socialist policies. And of course, to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, which can also be interpreted in a bunch of different ways. Now I can go on, I can connect this preamble to the rounding up of Japanese during World War II and a bunch of other things, but I don't think it's necessary. So I'm going to say something else. I want to add more to this conversation. I want to say that this was all intentional. These Federalists who constructed this Constitution in secret behind closed doors, and then who propagated the Constitution using propaganda, they intended all of this. This Constitution was constructed for this exact purpose. This is no accident. This is not something that was not foreseen and was not warned against. So this idea, this debate over whether we should interpret the Constitution according to its letter or according to its spirit is a silly debate, okay? It was intended to be interpreted according to its spirit. It was intended to be interpreted in this manner because the Constitution is a giant con, and it should have never been drafted, let alone ratified. What we need to do is we need to construct a new constitution, a constitution that actually binds the government. In Brutus's essay 11, he says this: the legislature must be controlled by the Constitution and not the Constitution by them. And it wasn't just simply the legislature, he was talking about the judiciary too. He was talking about the judges in this format. So it was very well known that this Constitution did not restrict government power. Actually, if you even know anything about the history of the Constitution, it was drafted because they said that the previous government wasn't strong enough. So when people like Brian over at High Impact Flicks tells people that these people are violating their oath, they're wrong. And not only are they wrong, but they're spreading this myth that the Constitution is this great thing. The Constitution is not a great thing. It's a terrible thing, and our problems will not be fixed, they will not be resolved until we deal with the root problem that is the Constitution. What we need to do is more people need to read the Anti-Federalist papers so that they can properly understand the Constitution and understand exactly what's wrong with it, and then we need to push for a constitutional convention where we draft up a new constitution which can do what this Constitution pretends to do.